Hello. There is an alarming trend happening right in front of us. A lot of people believe they are the first player. They believe they are conscious, aware, intentional, independent, morally grounded, emotionally mature, spiritually awake, politically informed, socially intelligent, financially responsible, and personally evolved. But their patterns say something completely different. They talk like the main character, they post like the main character, they argue like the main character. Arguing is so rampant online where people, rather than understand each other's opinions and try to make a connection between my opinion and your opinion, even though there are differences, there still would be a connection if it's grounded in facts. If we're talking about the same subject, they attempt to label you as something or immediately use monolithic responses with talking points from people that are online. It's not individual thought. It's not even said in their own words based off of their own life. It's based off of what other people saying and what they assume. They self-describe like the main character, but when you watch their actual life, their actual choices, their actual habits, their actual reactions, their actual relationships, and their actual patterns, they are living like an NPC. And let me be clear from the beginning. When I say NPC, I am not saying people have no value. I am not saying people are not human. I am using NPC as a metaphor for someone moving through life on programming instead of awareness, because the scariest thing about NPC behavior is not that the person lacks value. The scary thing is that the person often believes they are deeply aware while living completely controlled by image, tribe, ego, habit, fear, appetite, and outside programming. With image, anything that goes against the image they want to portray, it makes them self-destruct, trying to separate themselves from it and attack it when it's seen in other people, even if they display it themselves. With tribe, people are limited on what they can support, how they can respond to current events, depending on how it impacts their tribe or what the tribe agrees. And it's no discussion about it. It's not any open mindedness to it, even if it's proven to be old ways and old thoughts that were proven wrong a long time ago factually. But just because the tribe continues to carry it is valid to them. And if you don't validate it, then you're invalid. People outside the tribe, if they speak on the tribe, and this fits so many shoes across categories, not just one, you can think about many things. When a person outside the tribe attack the whole tribe, or not even attack, identify a negative behavior a tribe may have, the tribe will act as if that's an attack on them. And then if someone inside the tribe tells the tribe that they need to do better, then that person doesn't belong in the tribe anymore and they'll sell out. And I've seen it with fan bases, sports teams, like all anything. Ego. Ego is when people are dead wrong, but they will stand 10 toes down on sinking sand to be able to not have to change their viewpoint or their values or even correct the fact that they were wrong in situations. Or when it comes to emotions, unregulated emotions mixed with ego is really a bomb, because when a person is angry and they have a big ego, their ego tells them to make people feel their anger. And when it comes to sadness, ego makes a person seek sympathy from other people so they can validate their sadness versus them validating their own sadness. When it comes to trying to put off the appearance of having love, since that's something that people value themselves based off if they have love or not, ego will make a person stick with a relationship that's damaging them because they don't want the image of having a failed relationship. Habit, huh, habit is a lot. Habit could be the cell phone addiction many face. Habit could be the fact that people can't control whether they eat out or not, or what they eat, or just anything. Fear, fear is a lot of the people who are purposely unaware because the more that they learn about stuff, the more they realize they were misinformed, and also the reality isn't as beautiful as their dreams. And of course, outside programming, that's really what is going on. And if you're chronically online, it's very hard for you to have your own opinion because us as humans are very influenceable. That is why social media is so powerful because it's weaponizing all of the different human nature characteristics and putting it in a psychological gumbo pot. But regular people still think they have control if they on here a lot. And after my injury, being back on land and interacting with people with nothing left to match the interaction, I started seeing something that was hard to unsee. Society is divided into levels of awareness. At the top, you have the hyper aware individuals. They are the people who notice patterns. They can examine themselves. They can update their thinking. They can sit with uncomfortable truth. They can admit, I did not know that. They can ask, what role did I play? They can separate image from reality. At the bottom, you have the full blown NPCs. These are the people who run on scripts. They defend contradictions. They repeat talking points. They worship image. They confuse loyalty with blindness. They think being offended is the same as being correct. Whew, man, look. And I would like for my listeners to know that there is no explanation that you will ever have to make a person that is actively arguing with you agree with you. When and if you feel like people arguing with you may be idiots, remember, if you argue with an idiot, the world sees two idiots. They don't see you arguing with an idiot. So, and ego is what makes you respond to them even when you know it's not a healthy interaction. For me, I'll give a person one clarification attempt if I care, depending on what's going on. But a lot of the times it's really worthless. I'll do it to waste time if I feel like it because those people already made their mind up. And if they're using buzzwords to label whatever your statement was versus having a statement to add to it. So if you say the sky is blue, instead of them saying, oh, you must be colorblind, which is a random insult, they could easily say, have you ever noticed the purple hues in the blue sky, or do you only think it's blue? Like people want to be intellectual, but intellectual people ask questions. When a person is speaking, they ask questions before they respond to the person. They don't just listen what the person said and immediately throw a rebuttal to it because that's not an intellectual conversation. And that's why it amazes me, and it actually is funny. As many people want to use the word debate, oh, it's the debate, it's the argument, oh, your argument, baby. First of all, if I'm talking into the void and you come and address my statements, there is no argument because we're not communicating with each other. You are addressing me. I'm the house. You're addressing me. You're the piece of mail. I'm the mailbox. You seek me. Like Brittany said, if you seek Amy. But so I like it's really not helping the state of the world, the decline of the intellect, and not to mention, people act like they appreciate intelligence, but they do not. History will always repeat itself. And a lot of the names that we praise today, those people lived hard lives in their time. Because, like now, people do not understand what's in front of them in the present. It is not until you're dead, it is not until the tribe accepts what you said, it's not until your warnings come true. And then people will act like they've been rooting for you. I've seen it forever online where in the present a person is doing too much. Oh, they just need to shut up. Oh, they just bitter. Then 5, 10 years later, so and so was right. Oh, blah 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 blah. Like, baby, it's a lot of cap here. Like, so that's why I always with my awareness videos, I make sure people know that this is your own journey. Expecting other people to come along and expecting other people to respect it, baby, it's never gonna happen. You will live the easiest life if you had the least expectations. People always repeat these phrases, but they do not live by it because they still keep these wild expectations for things that they cannot control while ignoring the things they can control, while also frequenting spaces that praise people outsourcing their problems in life. Being able to constantly blame these big bad invisible villains for your life problems will never solve your life problems, because first of all, it's not true to the extent that some people say. That is why you never left the situation, because if these people, or if these situations, or if the systems were the way you said they were, eventually you would have been able to break through it since you identified it. Because when you identify a system, you overcome the system. But y'all are not identifying the correct systems that are causing these problems. That's why you are doomed to repeat it. But it's easy, but then the blame continues to be on the outside, on the outside. Not to mention the people who tell you to look on the inside, they're not looking on the inside either, because they still perform in their own life. And that's how society thrives. As long as people can perform, that's all that matters. A lot of this stuff that these people on platforms are saying, people automatically assume honesty from them because of what their positions are. But these people want the same money that y'all are chasing. They don't have financial literacy, just like y'all do not have financial literacy and financial discipline. That is why people still chasing consumerism. They haven't seen that all of this is a business model. You can enjoy life, but the fact that people are associating material items with enjoying life, that is a trap, because the enjoyment never comes. Not to mention materials, they expire, and the particular materials people use are materials that always have updates. So now you have a treadmill that you never get off of, trying to chase that. You're trying to chase, continue being with it. And it's easier to do it because it's common around you. It's one thing to hear it on the internet and then people make you feel better about yourself. But when you go outside your door, those people are going to praise that. All of the stuff that you're trying to get away from, people make it fun to do that. If you are a drinker, you can go to any bar and become besties with the regulars, brothers in alcoholism. Like, if you are someone who likes to shit on people, oh, I'm about to stun on them and all of this stuff, baby, it's a group of people that will call your phone every single day. That is why loneliness is dangerous, because a lot of these lives people are submerged in is due to loneliness. But it's not going to be called that, nevertheless. And thanks to my baby Nuance, I know many people fall somewhere in the middle. Some people are hyper aware in one area and completely asleep in another. A person can be extremely disciplined in school, career, study habits, networking, fitness, branding, social media image, or professional achievement, but still be an NPC in their personal life. They can be brilliant in business, but childish in relationships. They can be organized at work, but chaotic at home. And that's where the internet messes up, because the internet will see a person in one area and assume that that area is consistent with their whole life. That is why all of these famous people and different online scammers will forever win, because the too many people are caught up in image, whether they want to admit it or not. And it's funny when people don't admit it. Like when people think that they're above something or not able to be a part of something, that makes you more vulnerable to whatever that is. Like, they had a survey where 67% of people said that they couldn't be scammed. And when they attempted a scam, 34% of those people fell for the scam. So yeah, 34% of the 69 that said they couldn't be scammed, by the way. So that's almost half of them. And what's funny is, in my instance, I can't speak for the other people online. Anything I'm saying is to better people. Because if I wanted to get on here and shame people, baby, these would be different kinds of videos, though. And I mean, maybe one day I might have to give a sample of me shaming people so people can know the difference. Because I think being stern, firm, and seasoned in what you say, and me being someone's being gaslit like a propane grill most of my life, I refuse to speak on things that I don't have sufficient facts to back up. Even in personal life, if I accuse you of something, you're going to have to be did it a few times, or if you did it once, I got you on camera. I don't make accusations or statements without grounded facts. Now, some situations may be my take on it and a little bit mixture of my personal life, but I speak very strategically. My wording is very strategic. So if people listened to understand or even have critical thinking, they would see the difference in the different words I use. That's you. So yeah. They can know how to build a public image, but have no idea how to build real character. They can know how to impress strangers, but not know how to love people close to them. That is where this conversation gets uncomfortable because NPC behavior is not only found in people society labels as unsuccessful. I have seen it in CEOs, attorneys, real estate agents, politicians, religious people, activists. I have seen it in people with degrees, uniforms, titles, money, followers, and public respect. The title does not protect the person from being programmed. The suit does not mean consciousness. The degree does not mean self awareness. The platform does not mean wisdom, and the public image does not mean the private pattern machines. Also, by the way, a side note, for anyone new here, there are resources for the categories that I discussed: financial literacy, housing, stability, mental health, and probably 99% of my videos, a few of them miss it. But so, yeah, in addition to discussing about changes, I definitely make sure to provide resources that the government or your local nonprofits may have for you because there's so many resources out there that people will have viral posts saying they don't have this and they don't have that. Meanwhile, I'm on a website looking at a $20,000 grant that person qualifies for. So yeah, just please don't get caught up in this internet stuff. You do not know what the person you're following true intentions are, especially if y'all are still able to be caught up in rage material. People report on certain things for a reason. It's so many other things. A balanced reporter is gonna have balance. Like your emotions are being mined, and I mean, of course, it sounds crazy, especially when you deep underwear. Because for me, I have family members that's deep underwear, like underwear. That's funny, unaware. But and when they hear things that's too far from what their brain can process, they shut down. That's the human thing. So I mean, I don't know. I really could just be sitting back and watching the show, but I choose to be on the side of telling people stuff because it's just so exhausting to just see people being manipulated and they don't even realize it. But then those same people will have such strength and power when it comes to tearing down other people, being disagreeable, like just too much. Section one, image became the new reality. Let me go back. I'll just start from that. One of the biggest NPC traits I see is the obsession with image. NPCs thrive off image. If they can carve the image without doing the work, they will continue living as if the image is reality. And this is how they trick a lot of regular people with the things that y'all want. The person who seems like they have it, the brain likes comfort. So your nervous system is telling you something is wrong, but your brain is going to be like, okay, this what you wanted. Here you go. It's like a bus stop. If you tell a bus driver you getting off on Bissonnet Street, he gonna say Bissonnet Street right here. And this is where the aesthetic apocalypse comes in. We are living in a time where people can perform almost anything. They can perform being a good parent. They can perform being healed. They can perform being successful. They can perform being spiritual, perform being a leader, perform being an empath. That's the funniest thing when people say they're an empath, but then don't understand victims and situations. Anyways, they can perform being accountable. They can perform being loyal. They can perform being intelligent. That's even funnier too because maybe people who really intelligent do not even it's embarrassing when you get a compliment about your intelligence because if you truly have some level of intelligence, you have been in situations where insecure people have tried to tear you down and tell you that you thought you knew everything because you was the type to read the directions. And when they talking about stuff that is what the directions say do not do, and you telling them, hey, the directions say do not do this. Oh, you always had the answers. Oh, you always knew stuff. Okay, slow ho. But performance is not proof. Image is not evidence. A caption is not character. A post is not a pattern. A suit is not integrity. A degree is not wisdom. A platform is not truth. And this is dangerous because many people are trained to believe image before they investigate pattern. A parent can sell Instagram the proud parent image while the child experiences neglect in real life. I've seen it. Had to call CPS on somebody for it. Both parents on the internet with wigs and chains. Meanwhile, the baby drinking out of mildew bottles and having all types of sharp objects in the playpen. Man, look, mold in the diaper bag. Yep. And the family sat by for the duration of the baby life, making excuses. And I'm telling them like, hey, found this, hey, found that. Like, I just honestly, it makes the world a more funny place because, like I mentioned in previous videos, before I left social media, I was able to see a lot of behaviors. And like a lot of those comments that go viral in the shade room, some of those people I know them in real life. So it's just funny to me to see how once people saw that you can get attention online that you never get in real life, people retired from their real life. They retired from the growth. They retired from the trying to upgrade themselves in mature ways. Like if you change cars every year, a upgrade to yourself would be keeping the car longer, keeping the car for 5 years instead of 2 years. Or if you always move in apartments, a upgrade would be finding a city to settle down in for the time being, and the next time you move, be more intentional. Upgrading would be if you was an impulse shopper to step up your financial game. If you're gonna still shop, you're gonna start using rewards points, rewards programs, cash back apps. But with cash back apps, you have to really like look on the reviews of them. And when you installing them, please look at the terms and conditions slowly because some of them sell information. That's why they be sounding too good to be true. But you upgrade from impulsive shopping to being strategic and then also realizing the value of things. You looking at your luxury and saying, okay, this shirt was $500, but I only wore it once. So that means I paid $500 to wear a shirt versus if you wore it 10 times, that's $50 each time you wore it. Or if you wear it 100 times, that's $5 each time you wore it. Like getting the value out of stuff because you start to realize that your money you make from working is your energy in person. That's your essence. And when it comes to wild animals, they store food for the winter, but our winter would be us retiring or us becoming disabled or us basically not being able to have the abilities we have now while we in our prime. And upgrading would be understanding that because now if you in your 30s or if you're in your 40s, you have a whole decade to reflect on and you can see instead of always having that funeral, well, oh, I should have did this or oh, I should have did that. It should empower you to say, okay, let me snap back in the present. Okay, I noticed in my 20s I wasn't present because I was working, I was chasing friends, I was being drained by family, I was, just all of these different distractions, and you look back and you upgrade from that. But now it's like people believe that them not having whatever they repeat situation is, like if they repeat situation is fighting. If they haven't had a fight in 2 months, all of a sudden they tell themselves that they grew or that they becoming a better person. Meanwhile, as soon as they get triggered again, they back at it. Like it's a lot of falsehoods out here. An attorney can sell the image of being professional while ignoring correspondence. Wait, let me control Z that because I changed something. If it one thing you press the key on this thing, it's gonna move you away. I'm almost there. There we go. An attorney can sell the image of being professional while ignoring correspondence for months. Yeah, that's a common thing out here. But there is also a thing called settlement mills, MILLS, and those types of attorneys don't really give the full package because they're more like focused on cases that's open shut settlement type. And some of them like really if you live in a low income area or if you're doing business around a low income area related to contracts or finances, be very wary. Please be wary because I've personally and in the future when these things are like big like they're going to be, you will see what I'm talking about. But I have personally noticed that in New Orleans, since the education rate, the literacy rate is so low, the poverty rate is so high, a lot of businesses that their target audience is the bad credit community or the low income community, which for my online people, low income can be any color, by the way, and poverty can be any color because there literally is all colors of poverty, especially out here. But the businesses, they are extremely shady. At least with the buy here, pay here lots, they have probably more leeway to be shady because the car laws are very cut and dry. But when it comes to the real estate shady business and these shady attorneys, they are so thirsty that they really are willing to do unethical things, which is so funny because all it takes is someone who is the receipt king, no Walgreens, no CVS, like me, to destroy them with the snap of my finger. Like I might really be Thanos to scammers in real life. But that is definitely something that will be heavily discussed in the future. Like the cake is still baking. I can't take it out the oven right now. Not hours, not days, not even weeks, months. But the moment the client shows the pattern, suddenly the attorney is offended. Not because the pattern is false, but because the pattern attacked the image. A person can criticize the cleanliness, organization, or discipline of others' lives, but if you mention that their own house, finances, habits, or relationships are chaotic, they act like you committed a crime. A person can say they want to own a business, but if you suggest that they first improve time management, organization, emotional regulation, and follow through, they act like you insulted their destiny. Like there was a few people over the years that wanted to start cooking businesses, but they were late to everything. Whenever they did have stuff and they cooked, that was late by hours. When it came to making plans with people, they would completely ghost people and or lose track of time or have some type of situation going on. So it's like, how are you going to run a business if you can't even run your own life? Especially if you're not planning to hire professionals because there's one thing, if you the talent, if you could sing, if you could cook, if you could do whatever that's gonna make the money, that's all you really need to start with, and you can have the professionals do it for you. You can hire an accountant, you can hire a marketing person, you can hire a public relation, you can hire that. Even though it would be better to be able to have it yourself because at least when you starting, you will know the ins and outs. So when you do have people working for you, you can be able to check their work because you never want to have finances coming in and you can't be able to look at it and check your work because that's how people get over on people. Because again, just like you're hungry for money, and like a lot of people are hungry for money, especially people who spend, because getting money to blow it is an addiction, whether people want to admit that or not. So the same way you have that hunger, other people do too. And you don't really know people. It's not to be afraid of them because people have signs. That's one thing I can say. It takes a cold MF to be able to have zero signs of something. It's just you have to know. And when you know, you know. Not about what people doing, but when your environment is when something is threatening your environment because their nervous system tells on them first. And that is NPC behavior, not because they have flaws. We all have flaws. It becomes NPC behavior when a person defends the image harder than they correct the pattern. Chapter 2, NPCs hate mirrors. The fastest way to find out whether someone is aware is to show them a pattern, not an insult, not a smear, not a personal attack, a pattern. Because a conscious person may not like what they see, but somewhere inside, curiosity wakes up. They may say, let me think about that. They may say, I did not realize I was doing that. They may say that that is uncomfortable, but I see what you mean. They may not change instantly, but there is an opening. With NPC behavior, there is no opening. There is only defense. The moment you shine light on a contradiction, the defense system activates. They deflect, they accuse, they minimize, they start talking louder, they bring up unrelated people. They say, well, what about them? They suddenly become historians, philosophers, attorneys, theologians, activists, and public relations specialists all at the same time, not because they want the truth, but because they want the escape. The NPC does not want the contradiction resolved. They want the mirror removed. That is why many people can speak about growth while their life is frozen in time. They can speak about healing while they repeat the same harm. They can speak about accountability while avoiding every specific example. They can speak about loyalty while betraying people privately. Baby, baby. When I tell you, one of the most destructive people I've ever encountered in my life. And the sad part about it, they was behind enemy lines the whole time. Didn't even know it. But they that's all they post is memes about loyalty, and they one of the biggest snakes in the Amazon. They can speak about faith while protecting leaders who violate the very moral code they claim to follow. They can speak about community while doing nothing practical for the people in that community. That's why nobody could ever tell me anything, baby. Match my volunteer hours. Match my donation dollars. Baby, match me. Let's go gift for gift. Let's go donation for donation. Let's go philanthropist to philanthropist. Until then, I don't want to hear a damn thing. People be all cap and no action. They can speak about discipline while their habits are on autopilot. They can speak about love while making connection difficult. And the most dangerous part, they often believe their own performance. Living in first player mode around NPCs. Living in first player mode around NPCs is strange because when you move with intention, they do not always see the discipline. They see the result. They see your accomplishment and say, I wish that was me. But instead of asking what habits created the result, some of them accidentally minimize your hard work. They call it luck. They call it connection. They call it privilege. They call it something you had that they do not have. Not because they have studied your life, but because your discipline makes their avoidance uncomfortable. A person with a horrible relationship with food may look at your weight loss and say it was easier for you because of gender, schedule, access, gym availability, or some medication they imagine you use. Meanwhile, that same person could achieve the same result or better if they stop lying to themselves about their patterns. But the pattern is usually obvious. They may be eating 5,000 calories a day. They do not track calories. They don't check ingredients. They impulse eat, feel guilt, then repeat the same cycle. They may not move their body. They may consume liquor regularly, even though alcohol fights against weight loss, muscle growth, recovery, sleep quality, and discipline. They may doom scroll for 14 hours a day, then claim they do not have 30 minutes for purpose. That is NPC math. 14 hours for distraction, zero time for transformation. And then when the consequences arrive, they start looking for someone or something to blame. That is one of the deepest traits of NPC living. They feel the consequences of their own actions or inactions, then make those consequences someone else's fault. The person with knee pain from being overweight, inactive, and carrying low muscle mass may say it's a family thing. The person who has not stretched, trained, walked, strengthened, or cared for their body in years may say it is just age, but sometimes it is not age. Sometimes it is neglect. Sometimes it is improper handling of the body. Sometimes the body is not betraying you. Sometimes the body is giving you the receipt. Your body adapts to what you repeatedly do. If you stop moving, your body protects you by limiting movement. If you sit for years, your body becomes skilled at setting. If you avoid strength, your body becomes weak. If you avoid mobility, your body becomes stiff. If you eat chaos, your body eventually starts speaking chaos. So if you have been a couch potato for 10 years, then decide to play football at your 10-year reunion, that injury was not simply age. That was a system error from years of neglect. That was the body saying, you cannot abandon me for a decade and expect championship performance on command. NPCs often treat their bodies the same way they treat their vehicles they constantly trade in. They ignore the maintenance. They ignore the warning lights. They blame the machine. They want a new model. They treat their bodies like the phone with the cracked screen they never put a case on. The difference is the body cannot simply be traded in. The closest thing is cosmetic alteration, and we see how that industry is booming. But cosmetic changes do not replace stewardship. You can modify the outside and still be programmed on the inside. That is why first player living requires body awareness too, not vanity, not obsession, awareness. Your body is not just an accessory, it is the vehicle carrying your consciousness through this experience. And if you neglect the vehicle, you eventually lose freedom. Yep, and I was in physical therapy, still am actually, but in physical therapy, inpatient with a bunch of people of different ages, and all of the older people told me to tell everyone younger to take better care of their bodies because 100% of those people that I was in physical therapy with that were senior age, their injuries or the severity of it could have been prevented if they had a more active youth. So it's no you're never too old or young to start, but just know everything you do today, you're gonna pay for tomorrow, and it's not just the buy now, pay later plan or a firm or Klarna, like literally. So while these people are gassing y'all up to play with the present, gassing y'all up to burn y'all energy towards pointless systems and situations that are completely bigger than you and that will never end, but they making you think that your part in this is gonna change something while you wasting your destiny and your life and your path. Have fun, baby. And if you willing to windmill for them and argue like I see people do online, that's good. But there will be regret. That's one thing I do know. I live long enough and I've seen it from the biggest people who was the biggest of their time. And me being from New Orleans, it might be some people y'all know. I'll never tell. But um the biggest get brought down to their knees because it always comes back to bite you. No matter how much you feel like you winning or how much you feel like you shitting on other people, it will come back to bite you because you know deep down that you missed your purpose. And it's not like it's a special purpose pre-written, and when it's July 14th and it's the two meteorites pass over the sky and then the book gonna light up and tell you your purpose. You can have a purpose, like you can make one, but one that's a build. We need to build things. You build at other people's dreams. NPCs know everything and nothing at all. Whew. NPCs know everything and nothing at all. They will argue about nutrition without tracking what they eat. They will argue about discipline without having a schedule. They will argue about relationships without emotional regulation. They will argue about business without organization. They will argue about politics without reading policy. This is like for me, I you can always tell who read what they discussing, like who knows the law before they complain about the law, who knows different things, and many don't. That's why them types of conversations, and if it's a space with too many of those people, that's not a space for me. I segregate myself from it because it's not even helpful for anyone in it. All you doing is just ruminating and trauma bonding with people. No one is learning anything. No one is coming up with solutions. People never have a creative solution on fixing stuff. It's always temper tantrum related things. It's always anger fueled things. You can't build with fire. You will never build with fire. You burn with fire. You cook with fire, but you will never build with fire. They will argue about religion without practicing the moral code. They will argue about health without studying their own habits. They will argue about finances while fattening the pockets of the same entities they perform online hate towards. That is the economic tragedy of NPC living. They perform outrage against corporations, systems, industry brands, celebrities, governments, designers, platforms, and institutions, then spend their money in ways that keep those same systems rich. Like this Hennessy drinker I knew who was mad I ate Chinese food the other day, but Hennessy is owned by a white billionaire, and this person is supposed to be anti-white. So it's like, okay, to each his own, I guess. Then spend their money in ways that keep those same systems rich. They hate the machine online. They fund the machine offline. They fund it online too because all that ad revenue is billions of dollars a year. That's why all this pointless scrolling and being on these websites, you really need to have intention when you're using these websites because otherwise you're enriching people for no reason. Like if people became aware, you would make money so easily because you would see where the money is. It's right in front of your face. Look around you. Look what everyone is doing. Look what everyone is making money off of, and look what everyone is putting money towards. If you insert yourself in the middle of that, you would be making money. Then yell about exploitation while buying the uniform of the exploiter. They perform resistance while participating in the exact consumption structure they claim to oppose. That is why NPC living is not just psychological, it is economic, it is profitable. Unconscious people are excellent customers. An unconscious person can be sold insecurity. They can be sold status, outrage, beauty, belonging, fear, identity, enemies, convenience, temporary pleasure. They can be sold the image of healing without the work of healing. As long as they remain unaware, the machine keeps eating. This is why awareness is not just spiritual. Awareness is financial protection. Awareness is emotional protection. Awareness is social protection, physical protection, consumer protection. Awareness is life protection. I inadvertently then fell into being the damn defender of consumers. So I'm like the Batman of consumer scams. Spatial awareness and the NPC signal. As someone who has done philanthropy since 2015, I can often spot certain patterns before people even speak. One common weakness is lack of spatial awareness. And I do not just mean standing in the way at a grocery store, although that happens too. I mean a deeper lack of awareness of space, timing, context, impact, and other people's reality. They do not notice when they are blocking a doorway. They do not notice when they are draining a conversation. They do not notice when they are entering a serious moment with unserious energy. They do not notice when their behavior makes connections harder. They do not notice when their volume, attitude, entitlement, or chaos changes the entire environment. They do not notice the elderly person struggling. They do not notice the child needing guidance. They do not notice the worker being overwhelmed. They do not notice the person who actually needs help. They do not notice because NPC living narrows attention. The world becomes me, my feelings, my hunger, my image, my tribe, my inconvenience, my opinion, my comfort, my reaction. First player mode expands attention. You notice the room, you notice the patterns, you notice the emotional weather, you notice who is being ignored, who is performing, who is hiding behind language, who is using morality as a costume, who wants credit without contribution. And once you start noticing, baby, you don't notice like an eviction. NPCs are easy to manipulate. One of the most dangerous things about NPC behavior is that NPCs are extremely susceptible to manipulation through ego preservation. If someone praises their image, minimizes their flaws, and gives them an outside enemy to blame, the NPC will often hand that person their loyalty, their money, their time, their attention, their finger strength and comment section, their whole nervous system, all because the manipulator did one thing: they protected the NPC from self reflection. This is why ego based movements are so powerful. The leader does not need to solve the problem. The leader only needs to name an enemy. The leader only needs to say, your life is not your responsibility, it is their fault. The leader needs to make the NPC feel righteous, chosen, oppressed, superior, special, attacked, or misunderstood. And once that happens, the NPC becomes a soldier for someone else's agenda. We see this in religion. We see this in politics, in sports, in the music industry, in legal and civil issues. We see this when people compare countries, in fan bases, in social media movements. We see this in communities where people will demonize one person for a behavior, then do Olympic backflips to excuse the same behavior from their idol. And when the contradiction is pointed out, many of them do not even have a structured argument. They just get louder. They change the subject. They say, well, other people probably would have gotten away with it too. They start creating diplomatic immunity for the person they worship. That is not loyalty, that is programming. NPCs are anti curiosity. Another NPC symptom is being anti curiosity. People often call certain people geniuses because of intelligence, but a huge part of intelligence is curiosity. Curious people know what they do not know. They are willing to learn, they are willing to update, they are willing to say, I used to think this, but I found new information. They are willing to ask better questions. NPCs do the opposite. NPCs often treat new information like a threat. If the information does not match the narrative they were fed, they stop listening. They're not asking if is this true. They're asking, does this protect my tribe? They're not asking what is the evidence. They're asking, do I like the person saying it? That is why an NPC can receive breaking news from a random social media post and repeat it with confidence. No verification, no source checking, no context, no humility, just vibes, outrage, and reposts. And then larger platforms have to come behind random social media rumors and debunk narratives that should have never spread in the first place. That is NPC information processing. Feeling first, tribe second, evidence last. And sometimes evidence never arrives at all. The NPC comment section. Social media made NPC behavior easier to see. NPCs hijack timelines because their content often receives traction from other people operating at the same level of awareness. But the funniest thing is when an NPC ends up in the comment section of an already structured, sane community, they stick out immediately. They see a picture, never read the caption, and argue based only on the picture. They watch 10 seconds of a video and write a full dissertation in the comments. They respond to a headline but never engage with the actual argument. They hear one phrase that does not match their programming and their ears close. They do not listen to understand. They listen to for threat detection. They are not there for truth. They are there to defend the software already installed. And this is why social media can be so exhausting because thoughtful people are trying to have a conversation. NPCs are trying to win a reaction. The connection contradiction. One of the biggest NPC symptoms is the constant yearning for connection while refusing to see how they make connection difficult. They want love, but they do not want accountability. They want friendship, but they do not want reciprocity. They want loyalty, but they do not want honesty. They want community, but they do not want to contribute. They want emotional safety, but they keep creating emotional instability. They want deep connection, but they punish depth when it arrives, especially with the damn repetitive small talk that they heavily defend, but don't see the bigger picture as to why two strangers meeting each other, why would it not be annoying for a person you barely know to keep hitting you with small talk when they ask you could they get to know you? Asking a person what they doing every day is not how you get to know them, especially for the things that people claim they want to do with people. But nevertheless, that is the contradiction. And this is why it is dangerous for people who believe words too quickly. Some people hear, I am growing, but the patterns say frozen. They hear, I am a good person, but the pattern says avoidance. They hear, I care about people, but the pattern says self absorbed. They hear, I am loyal, but the pattern says conditional. They hear I am honest, but the pattern says image management. And because many people are looking outward for love, friendship, validation, community, or rescue, they stay attached to the image even when the pattern keeps harming them. That is how NPCs become dangerous in relationships. Not always because they're plotting, sometimes because they're unconscious. And unconscious people can cause conscious damage. Chapter 10, the shared identity leash. Another NPC behavior I notice is when people try to use shared identity as a leash. If you share a race, they try to tell you what you must think because of your color. If you share a religion, they tell you who you can associate with, what content you can consume, what questions you're allowed to ask, and what leaders you're required to protect. If you share a political label, they expect you to defend everything from that side, even when it violates your own morals. If you share a sexuality, gender, culture, neighborhood, struggle, or background, they think that shared feature gives them ownership over your mind. That is NPC tribe logic. It is not community. It is control dressed as belonging. Real community can survive questions. Real faith can survive moral consistency. Real brotherhood and sisterhood can survive accountability. Real shared identity does not require you to betray your discernment. If your group only loves you when you stop thinking, that is not belonging. That is programming. Chapter 11, the boycott without building problem. This is why I always struggle with a lot of performative activism. Some people can unify to boycott something, argue online, repeat slogans, and attack anyone who does not join the performance. But where is the building? Where is the practical help? Where is the structure? Where is the protection for children? Where is the support for single mothers? Where is the mentorship for young men? Where is the help for seniors living alone? Where is the community fund with actual oversight? Where is the organized effort to make sure people have electricity, food, transportation, education, safety, and guidance? Where is the movement to give idle, able bodied people purpose before they become predators to the hardworking? Where is the plan? Where is the measurable result? Where is the accountability? Because if all a movement does is create enemies, slogans, and emotional stimulation, it may not be liberation. It may just be another program. And NPCs love programs that let them feel righteous without requiring them to become responsible. Clip this. Definitely. I don't know if StreamYard caught me saying clip this, but baby, clip that because that need to be clipped. Section 12, my childhood village and the manufacturing of NPCs. My childhood village was riddled with this kind of thinking. And when you come from a place where education is low, curiosity is punished, image is rewarded, and accountability is treated like betrayal, NPC behavior can reproduce like a multiplayer resurrection in an online game. People pass down scripts, they pass down excuses, they pass down fear, tribal thinking, poor health habits, poor relationship models, financial confusion, anti curiosity. They pass down the belief that anyone who questions the pattern thinks they are better than everyone else. And as long as people reinforce that way of living, the numbers will continue to grow because programming spreads when the group protects it. If everyone around you calls dysfunction normal, the person seeking health looks like the problem. If everyone around you lives through impulse, the disciplined person looks judgmental. If everyone around you avoids accountability, the honest person looks aggressive. If everyone around you worships image, the pattern recognizer looks dangerous. That is why growth almost always disturbs stagnant environments. Growth exposes what the group agreed not to discuss. Chapter 13, the lieutenant NPC. I called one type of person the lieutenant NPC. This is the person who materialistically Alexa, Echo, shut up. I'm recording. NPCs interpret. Wait, that thing that threw me off. This is the person who materialistically checks the boxes other NPCs would interpret as made it. They may have the job, the car, the look, the uniform, the apartment, the social media image, the respectable title, but when you look closer, the pattern is chaos. They complain about finances, but eat out every meal. They complain about cooking, but cannot explain what the actual complaint is. They repeatedly have stomach issues, but never investigate their diet. They consume little to no dietary fiber, then act confused about digestion. You need that daily fiber. You need fiber daily. That's why they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away because the apples have fiber in it. But that's still not the full daily fiber if you just eat one apple. But yeah, it definitely does help though. One apple is better than none. And that's why when people say it made me go to the restroom, it didn't make you go to the restroom. It activated your digestive system. Big difference. They ask, "How are you?" and "What are you doing?" over and over, but cannot explain what connection they are actually trying to build. They study psychology, but cannot see their own addiction. They worship public figures, but cannot form an original argument. They repeat what someone else said as if that is a personal wisdom. That is Lieutenant NPC behavior. They have enough function to appear put together, but not enough awareness to examine the system running them. Chapter 14, final boss of NPCs. There is the final boss of NPCs. Final bosses of NPCs avoid all accountability, avoids all actionable plans, avoids all solutions, points spears at distant enemies, blames groups that may have no direct benefit from the problem existing, turns every personal failure into a conspiracy, turns every correction into disrespect, turns every fact into an attack, turns every disagreement into betrayal. Final boss NPCs do not want a solution. Final boss NPCs want a villain because a villain allows them to keep the pattern. A solution will require them to change. And that is the line NPCs often refuse to cross. How NPC living starts. It starts quietly. It starts with not being teachable. It starts with arguing against actual facts because the facts do not feel good. It starts with demonizing opposing opinions instead of examining them. It starts with needing your side to always be right. It starts with believing your intentions matter more than your impact. It starts with choosing image over correction. It starts with wanting admiration more than growth. It starts with making your identity so fragile that every mirror feels like violence. It starts with treating the body like a rental vehicle, like the smoked out ones. It starts with treating money like entertainment. It starts with treating time like it is unlimited. It starts with treating comfort like a god, treating discipline with like oppression, treating every consequence like persecution. And once that happens, the person becomes very easy to control because whoever protects their ego can control their mind. That's why yes men and yes women will always win in society, especially if they manipulative. Baby, ain't nothing stronger than a manipulative yes man because they already know they gonna yes queen and yes king you right off the cliff while they holding your wallet in their hand. Section 16, the real test. So here is the real test. Are you living from awareness or programming? Can you be corrected? Can you update your beliefs? Can you admit when your pattern does not match your self description? Can you hear uncomfortable truth without immediately attacking the messenger? Can you separate loyalty from blindness? Can you question your tribe? Can you question your favorite public figure? Can you question yourself? Can you look at your habits and say, my life is showing me something my mouth keeps denying? Can you look at your body and ask, have I been caring for this vehicle? Can you look at your money and ask, am I funding the same systems I claim to hate? Can you look at your time and ask, am I really busy or am I just distracted? Can you look at your relationship and ask, do I want connection or do I only want access to people who do not challenge me? Because that is where the first player begins, not with control over others, not with the perfect image, not with being loud, not with being admired, not with being seen as deep, spiritual, intelligent, moral, successful, or enlightened. The first player begins with self observation. The first player can pause, the first player can question the script. First player can look at their own patterns without needing to destroy the mirror. The first player does not worship image. The first player studies reality. Watch the pattern, the outro. This is why I no longer believe people based only on what they say. I listen, but I watch, because people will self describe as healed, loving, loyal, intelligent, spiritual, accountable, mature, disciplined, and aware. But the pattern tells the truth. The pattern is the receipt, the audit, the real resume. And if the pattern never changes, the speech does not matter. NPCs will speak on growth while their life stays frozen in time. They will speak on truth while defending lies. They will speak on community while draining the people around them. They will speak on awareness while attacking every mirror. They will speak on health while neglecting their own body. They will speak on financial freedom while funding their own captivity. They will speak on activism while building nothing. They will speak on love while making connection impossible. And if you are someone who is searching outward for friends, love, belonging, validation, or rescue, this is your warning. Do not fall in love with the image. Study the pattern, because in the aesthetic apocalypse, image is cheap. Performance is everywhere, but awareness still costs something. It costs humility. It costs curiosity. It costs accountability. It costs stewardship. It costs willingness to be wrong. It costs the willingness to stop blaming age, family, society, enemies, trauma, stress, or bad luck for every single result that your own patterns help create. And that is why many people would rather live like NPCs while calling themselves out the main character. But the truth is simple. You're not the first player because you can customize the avatar. You become the first player when you finally question the programming. And that is the end of this video. And for me, I can definitely say I had to face age, I had to face family, I had to face society, enemies, and all of that. I could have easily blamed it. I could have blamed family. I could have been on drugs and blamed my dad. I could have had multiple baby mamas and blamed my mama. I could have did a lot of different things that was very heavily influenced in my environment. But the life that I always wanted for myself was never around these people. And once the conflict of interest became to come to play, where it was like two hands pulling at me, my life that I already built, and that the harvest was growing and pulling me towards that, and the people who are stagnant who wanted me to stay with them. I couldn't be in two worlds, so I had to pick one, and I did. And you should too. But thank y'all. Have a good one.